Sick Harrison Price for Thursday, April 3rd, 2025, coming to you from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the Historic Wall Center. In this program, a presentation of Bet365. Matt Sick Harrison alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson, hitting switches, conducting things. We've got a big show planned for you. This isn't quite the wake.
No.
It's the family gathering before the wake.
Yes.
So thank you for joining.
The season is not yet
home.
passed. Mm-hmm. We are just all gathered.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We'll head to the church tomorrow or the day after, whenever the case may be. Our Surrey Mitsubishi poll question today: does one of Elias Pettersson or Rick Tocchet have to go? Yes or no? You can vote at the Sick Harrison Price X or YouTube channels. What says you?
No, I don't think they have to go at all. I think there's a good reason to believe that there's going to be some difficulties still in their relationship. But these are two professionals that should be able to find a way. And here's my biggest point.
Hold on, stop there.
Yeah.
These are two professionals that should be able to find a way. Where have I heard that sentence before?
Well, I'm just about to get to that.
And how did that work out for them?
The Canucks have already traded for not quite pennies on the dollar, dimes on the dollar with regards to the JT Miller trade. They cannot do that again.
Could be pennies if Hedl can't play hockey anymore, but yes.
You are not getting anything close to what you should for Elias Pettersson in a trade. You get something back, you wouldn't get what you really need back. And you've just got to keep on plowing ahead if you're the Vancouver Canucks and hoping that Elias Pettersson finds his game. As for Rick Tocchet, I am on record saying as per yesterday's poll question, I don't think he's critical. You can find another coach, but all things being equal, a decent coach should be able to figure it out. So I don't think it's not as black and white as one or the other next season for me. No.
Asking this, of course, because of Tocchet's comments Tuesday about Pettersson being out of the lineup. And let's just play that clip again so everyone is reminded of it, and I'll come back and answer the poll myself.
I think once or twice didn't skate that hard, a little bit of discomfort.
Upper body or lower body?
Upper body.
Do you know how it happened or what? Yeah.
I think I always expect that, but like I said, it's day to day. When a guy's day to day, expect him to play, but I don't know, the discomfort level, where it's going to go.
So we've reached the meaningless games portion of the schedule for the Vancouver Canucks. There is still a mathematical chance, and the players and coaches may lean on that as a crutch, but you're down to 7 games left, and there is no there when it comes to the Stanley Cup, when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And so is Elias Pettersson going to come back and play this year at all? I asked that in part because Tocchet pulled the goaltender with 5 minutes last night to see who had given up. So is Elias given up on this season, or are the Vancouver Canucks just going to shut him down, or is he going to come back and play? And I asked that because when they made the Miller move, and then again at the trade deadline, I was not quite ready to move off of Elias Pettersson. I wanted to see what kind of finish he could have to this season. And if you're telling me that he's not going to play the final 7 games of the season, and thus his season is going to end with 64 games played and 45 points, 15 goals in those games played, I would feel more inclined to move off Elias Pettersson in the summer. And I feel that way because as much as he's the best solution to your problem, certainly internally, To me, when you have a tricky golf shot and you know that leaving it short or leaving it long are both bad options, but one is just criminal, one you absolutely can't do, and the other one just makes for another really tough shot. I feel like holding on to Elias Pettersson too long is the criminal mistake here, because that's $11.6 million, and that will sink your team long term. I hear your mouth that his trade value isn't high. I also think with 31 other teams out there, you can probably find a palatable deal.
You're talking at the draft,
Pettersson. Yep.
Before
Yep.
the clause kicks in.
Yep. Yeah, of course. Yeah, have to. I also, I wonder where the Vancouver Canucks are in terms of learning their lesson. They knew long ago that Elias Pettersson and JT Miller were not copacetic. They made it work for a little bit. They always knew it was a possibility, though, that it would flare up and sink the team. And Rutherford talked about that with Gary Mason in the Globe and Mail earlier this year. So are you going to let this one fester too? Or are you going to rip the Band-Aid? Are you going to make the proactive, difficult decision that managers are paid to make? Or are you just going to run them both back and hope? So to answer the poll question, yes, I think one of them has to go. 9 times out of 10, I'd be more inclined to throw the coach overboard because players are just more valuable than coaches, period, full stop.
Yes.
And I still think you can construct a case for that here.
You're going to bend to the unsigned coach.
No, I didn't say that. I'm not 100% there yet either. But right now, I'm leaning to one of them having to go. And if I can get a palatable deal for Elias Pettersson, yeah, I think I'm more inclined to go that way.
You're in your golf analogy, Matt, as you sit one top 6 center short already.
Yep.
Trading away another one that is more likely than whatever you get back to be a true with a bullet 1C.
Well, yes, that's fair.
He's way more likely than whatever you're getting back to be a 1C.
Except I think you can get a top 2 centerman back that fits better for this coach.
That might be, but then you're a 1C down.
Yep, but you're a 1C down right now anyways.
Well, you're in
45 points in
execution.
64 games is not a 1C.
Yeah, in execution, you're a 1C down, but not
a year and a half. It's been a year and a half where he has not been a 1C.
It's been 100 games, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Well, that's not even totally true. So he's played 182 games under Rick Tocchet, Elias Pettersson has. In his first 82 games, so full season's worth, he had 109 points. Under Rick Tocchet did Elias Pettersson.
Yep.
109 points.
I know. Amazing.
In the 100 games since,
but I think
he's got 73 points. So...
which is still okay.
That's like a 60-point pace?
Yep. And believe me, I'm torn on this, Blake, because even Elias's bad is still decent by NHL standards.
It is.
But it's not $11.6 million decent. And if we're going forward in a world where Elias is a 60-point player at 11.6, to me, that's the greatest sin. That's the greatest crime.
You have
to use the
believe.
golf analogy, that's leaving it short and dunking it in the water as opposed to hitting it over the green and having a tough downhiller coming back.
You have to believe that this is the bottom of the barrel for Elias Pettersson.
I'm not sure it is, though, because I think the trust is broken with Elias and the organization. I think when Rutherford and Alvin unleashed Tocchet and Miller to toughen him up this year, they completely lost him. I don't think he trusts the coach, and the coach continues to sort of downplay, belittle his injuries. I don't think he trusts the management. I mean, Alvin uses that phrase, right? Well, we have to have an environment where they feel safe.
Matt, if all of that is
true. I don't
true,
think he trusts Jim Rutherford. I don't think Rutherford is a believer in Elias as a championship centerpiece.
If all of that is true, and I'm not saying it's impossible, but if all that's true, I don't believe this player, given the way we have seen him act, sits idly by and watches a no-trade clause kick in, which effectively kills his market. If he's that unhappy here, I think in his exit meetings this year, he would say, if you can find a spot for me, find a spot for me.
Yeah, he might.
I don't think he just sits here and goes, oh, well, I guess this is my life now.
No, because I think he would realize Tocchet's on borrowed time. All coaches are.
No, but
Rutherford's 76 years old or whatever he is.
But Patrick Allvin has called him out publicly, too, about his practice habits and all that stuff, too.
But Allvin is the one that I think Elias can live with. Fellow Swede. And frankly, I think Allvin is the biggest believer in Pettersson of the three.
Still, these next 2 to 3 seasons are the remaining 2 to 3 seasons of the prime of Elias Pettersson's career. I don't think he's willing to flush those and watch Rick Tocchet sign an extension that ensures that they are together for at least 2 to 3 more years.
Well, maybe that's the play, Blake. You sign Tocchet to an extension, and then maybe, Pettersson tells you something one way or the other.
Yeah, it's possible.
But answer me this. And again, we'll see if he comes back and plays it all this year. But do you think Elias Pettersson is ready to bleed for Rick Tocchet? Do you think Elias Pettersson is going to give Rick Tocchet his everything going forward after all the baggage between them now?
I think there's a clearing of the air that can certainly occur, and I think at the very least what you can hope for from Elias Pettersson is a maturation and an end to the woe is me. Because I think as much as it's...
And it was tracking that way.
As much as there is an EP Rick Tocchet tension there, for sure, I think it's just as much as woe is me. And if you can at least eliminate the woe is me, I think you can channel any frustration with the head coach into, some fire on the ice at the very least. There's been a lot of players throughout the course of time that haven't been wild about their coach. That has happened everywhere. But you can get past that.
Yeah.
As long as you're not also feeling...
And that's... I leave open a sliver of hope of that. But it's narrowing by the day, by the missed game, by the coach's comment. I almost feel like we're getting to an environment like with JT Miller, where there is a broad recognition that, okay, if this guy is going to perform and be the player that he can be, it's just not going to be here. I almost feel like we're getting to that point. And I think it's important to have organizational alignment. And so if Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin are going to be here, then I think you're probably better served by having alignment with the coach that you want and the way you want to play, as opposed to the mercurial would-be first-line center who nobody in the organization has been able to reach, get the best out of, and who may or may not, and who doesn't trust you anymore and feels wronged by you.
100-point players are so few and far between in this league. I think when you've seen a guy prove it a couple of times already, effectively, I think you owe yourself a long leash in deciding to get rid of him.
I would agree with that.
Especially a guy whose age begins with a 2.
I would agree with that, yeah. I think the only question is, how long is the leash?
Yep. Yeah, and we're past 100 games, as I mentioned.
Yeah, and so that's already a pretty long leash. And look, if there wasn't a no-move clause kicking in on July 1st,
it's a no-brainer.
We would have a lot more leash available to us here.
Yeah.
But because that's the case, we got 7 games.
I still, as I said, you did not win a JT Miller trade, especially with the heel injury now. I
think you can win a Pettersson trade. I think it's a very narrow, but I think, put it this way, I think you can make an Elias Pettersson trade where both sides win. I think you can make an Elias Pettersson trade where even if the inquiring team does better than you still benefit. Kind of like U.S.-Canada trade. He may think we do better than him, but the U.S. still does benefit.
I've talked about flooding the center ice position. I don't think you do it by trading away the one guy who could be a superstar in the forward ranks, though. The one guy that you've got. You look at a team like Seattle that just beat the Canucks. No, there's no superstars in the offing there. It doesn't appear, and that's a problem. You need anchors, and unless you're getting and I just don't think nobody's gonna be offering up their potential superstar in this trade.
No, they won't. But they could be offering up young pieces that become superstars.
Yeah, it's just then you're missing the Quinn window and the win for Quinn and all that.
That is possible. You're dealing with a field of 31 teams.
Mm-hmm.
There might be there's a few teams that are very, very hard up on cap space, so maybe it's a field of 28 teams, but it's a big field. I mean, Cam Robinson tells us every Tuesday, there's a team that just keeps calling. It says, we're going to keep calling until you tell us, no, he's not available. I still think there are teams out there that look at Elias and think to themselves, we can fix him. He'd do better here. And frankly, I don't think they're wrong. Like, I think there are teams that would have a coach and a system better suited for Elias. I think there are teams that exist in a market and media environment that are better suited for Elias. So this will be a great test of Rutherford and Allvin. Can you barter and create the bidding war between these teams that returns you a palatable and acceptable package that can get you ahead? In terms of the Quinn Hughes piece, and this one is, and it also plays in here, so good on you to bring it up because I threw it at you yesterday. If you move on Tocchet, I think you have, again, potentially broken the trust or at least splintered the relationship with Hughes because I do think they're that close.
Okay, but I think Quinn and Pettersson are not enemies either.
No, agreed.
So,
but
which one?
No, but you bring players in, and then you have the full run of the season to be able to get them on side. And if you have a good season, hopefully he is on side and signs that extension next year.
Which
have 2 seasons.
Which is the bigger body blow to Quinn's confidence in the club, the departure of Tocchet or a trade of Elias Pettersson? I think it's a trade of Elias Pettersson.
I would disagree. I think Quinn Hughes comes from a hard hockey environment.
Yeah.
Anyone who has ever encountered his father has the same sort of comment like, whoa, that is a hardened, tough guy. Doesn't smile or laugh a lot, puts the boys through their paces. You know, as somebody said to me when I mentioned to them, Travis Green can be hard on young players. Someone who knows the Hughes family said to me, well, I promise you, whatever Travis has said to Quinn.
Dad said it already.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. But
what's also
true, though,
I think Quinn also understands that Elias has a long way to go if he's going to be a championship centerpiece.
I also find hockey players are eternally optimistic.
Yep.
And I think he looks at Elias Pettersson and goes, no, that's a 100-point player there. Regardless of what, you could throw the last 100 games at him and be like, yeah, I know, but he's a 100-point player. Mm-hmm. And you just traded him away for the second line guy.
Yeah. Well,
and he wants to win now.
The one thing that I think that shakes hockey players is when they identify somebody who isn't all in. I'm not sure Elias is all in. And I'm not sure Elias can be all in.
From your chair. I don't think Quinn sees that from his chair. I don't think he's too embedded. He's too alongside that player. I don't think he would think
right.
That.
Okay.
And again, it's all about perspective. It's not about what's wrong and what's right there. I just think from his perspective, he's probably thinking, no, my guy's going to be a 100-point player next year. Don't trade him.
Yeah. But again, there'll be an initial bruise. The players who come back will perform. Quinn will look around and go, okay, can work with this. And that's if they make the good trade. Again,
that's the thing. It's got to be perfect, man. What
you're
suggesting is not impossible,
no, I know,
but highly, highly unlikely.
Right.
Like it's not. It shouldn't be an expectation.
If you want to move on Tocchet, so the other thing is, okay, move on Tocchet. Whoever you bring in, if they can work wonders with Elias, great. But I think that's also a narrow path.
Not as narrow to me. It's just
Probably
not-
right.
Yeah.
Probably right. Well, our friends at Surrey Mitsubishi are offering $500 off per goal on a new or used vehicle.
Wait till the weekend.
See if they can fill the nets on Saturday. 2 points is $1,000 off.
It is merely the Ducks.
It's up to or 2 goals. It's up to 5 goals. So 5 goals, $2,500 off on a newer pre-owned vehicle. You got to mention Sekeres Price. The offer is valid until the next game day. Score more, save more, more value, more savings. Bring them any offer. How about that? Bring them any offer. Surrey Mitsubishi will beat it. Visit 13820 104th Avenue.
There's your avenue to a good bit of savings. Just bring them an offer.
Yeah. Top story brought to you by Yellow Dog. Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Canucks playoff hopes dissipate. 5-0 home loss to the would-be rival Seattle Kraken. And maybe the rivalry has a little more juice now, given that Seattle beat them up pretty good this year. Playoff odds now down to 2.2%, according to Money Puck, after the Wild gain a loser point on Broadway against the Rangers. Here's the captain, Quinn Hughes. He knows they're cooked.
Effort's been there for the most part, and thought we had a pretty good road trip as far as tonight. Obviously, not what we wanted to see, but have to look at it tomorrow and get better. I mean, it's not tough to believe just because we're in it, and it's the reality. So as far as that, obviously, you know, everyone's looking at the standings daily and knows, you know, what the percentages are or whatnot, and so yeah, we know where we're at.
And the smallest of lifelines given to the Wild by the Wild, as you mentioned, and yet I think people would have clung to that. You know, if they get the win last night, after the Wild only get one, it's only incremental progress, but it's progress. You'd be making up some ground if you'd got the 2 points. And the fact that they didn't do that on home ice, especially in the fashion. I mean, a heartbreaker at the death again would have been one thing. But the fact that they were never in this, never close, and despite the shots and possession not being terribly against them,
well,
really, how many
they dominated the underlings.
But how many 5 alarmers did they force Joey Daccord to
No,
make?
DeBrusk, that pass gets picked off. Isamont beats Demko. It gets worse from there.
Joshua had a good chance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Not much there.
Kraken put up 5 without their 2 top goal scorers and shut out the Canucks, who get shut out for the 4th time this season. 77 shot attempts. The underlings were all in the Canucks' favor. Daccord was better than Demko. Canucks have no centers, no play drivers outside of Quinn Hughes, right?
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
Coach didn't like this shot selection or the poise. Here's Tocchet.
What do we have, 76 shot attempts? A lot of missed nets, blocked shots. The same old story. We just, that's where the poise is, you know. You know the guy's going to be in front. You got to fake it, go around, and then shoot it. Like, these are the poised plays. 76 shot attempts are, I mean, I like it, but you'd like to see more result-oriented when you get some attempts. I thought we missed the net again. Shot location's a big thing. We've talked about being able to shoot somewhere where the goalie might give a rebound instead of missing the net and starting to break out. So this is but that's poise. We got to keep working on that stuff.
In the end, the shots at 5-on-5, for and against, 15-14 for the Canucks. So all those shot attempts, and yet you're barely out shooting the opposition at 5-on-5. Mm-hmm. And both with the man advantage and at 5-on-5, several.
Well, the man advantage, you had several opportunities here to.
Well, what I'm saying is, in both cases, I would see players swing up. I think of a Lekramacky one in particular, and maybe it's because he's a kid and he wants to defer. But I saw this from Sherwood as well and Garland. You curl up towards the top of the circle. They were backing off. Kraken were backing off, softening to the middle of the slot sort of thing. The player doesn't walk in. Player doesn't get any closer. Either dishes off to one of the defensemen or just shoots from where they are way out. Like, walk in, try a move, see if that guy bites and you get even closer, or walk in and take the shot. Like, they are just settling for the most. It is like NPC. It's like you're playing against the computer in your video game. You know, like it is the most
predictable,
uncreative, basic hockey you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody's saying, "Look at the space." I'm gonna walk in, try and dangle this guy. You'd almost forgive that at this point, even if it's unsuccessful. At least you're trying. It's not happening.
Remember in Tecmo Bowl, you'd play against the computer. There were 4 offensive plays, 2 runs, 2 pass. On first down, computer on defense was always going to play a run play. So you just throw a pass. They pulled the goalie, as mentioned, down 4 with 5 minutes to play. Interesting answer from Coach. Here's Tocchet.
You're looking for who's giving up, who's not, and I want to see. Who knows? You might need it on what do we play again? Saturday, a 6-on-5 goal. Like you might as well do it. So why not?
Yeah, I hear you, Coach. But that first part, to see who's given up, and you can bet that Rick Tocchet and Adam Foote and the coaching staff and the management will be taking pretty good notes here over the final 7 to see whose heart is still in it.
It's hard to play hard.
Yeah, exactly, because it's hard to play hard at the end of a long and tedious, torturous season when you know nothing is at stake. It is a test of professionalism. It's a test of desire. I don't agree with a lot of what Brian Burke espouses, but one thing that has always stuck with me about the Brian Burke program is that on the day you're officially eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs, he's going to walk into that building like a grizzly bear. He is going to let everybody in his orbit know that he's pissed off, that he's frustrated, that the organization has failed, and that there will be consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hope that Tocchet has a moment or two like that here in the next week. At home this year, 15, 14, and 7. Only Chicago with 14 wins and San Jose with 12 are worse, and those are by far and away the 2 worst teams in the NHL. They're bottom 3 in goals on home ice as well. Only Minnesota and the aforementioned Blackhawks are worse than them in terms of goals on home ice. I'll give them a little bit of a reprieve there. They still have a lot of home games remaining. 5 of them, in fact. So they may well pass some teams.
Do you even have a theory there?
goals.
Because I certainly do not.
No, I don't.
I think it might just be random. That they are just a middling to bad team, and it just so happens that a lot of the losses collected on home ice.
So, and I'm less throwing my support behind these theories as just floating them to give me your reaction. Number 1, fewer distractions on the road, right?
Mm-hmm. You spend more time together, though, for a team that has
hated each other.
That's been accused of dressing room discord.
Yes.
You spend way more time together on the road.
Mm-hmm. At home, there are social activities. Line matching. Have they done a poor job of line matching this year? Matchups, getting the matchups you want at home?
But again, you'd think that would make you no worse than the road. Like, it shouldn't be a disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
And what I will have some
like there. We've heard in the past, the AV used to say this a bit. Sometimes we get at home, we're a little too showy. We try and put on a show for the fans.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure that's been the case.
They're mildly better recently, like in the last 2 months on home ice.
Mm-hmm.
Mildly better. I wonder if, for some reason, the Miller Pettersson stuff manifested itself more at home.
Mm-hmm.
On the road, there's a purpose to your travel. You're on the move. Yeah, you're together a lot, but there's a you're
once practice ends and everyone goes back to the hotel. If Pettersson wants to sit in there and play video games, and Miller wants to go take the boys on the town, then so be it.
But at home, maybe you're hanging around the arena a little bit more because you don't have anywhere to go. I don't know. Doesn't make a ton of sense.
11 losses to non-playoff teams on home ice this year. JPAT had that stat. And that's the one that really hurts, right? Like, these are regulation losses to non-playoff teams.
Yeah.
How many losses at home do they have?
Well, 21 overall and 14 in reg.
Right. 2 to Nashville. 2 to Seattle. Calgary. Utah. Boston. Buffalo. Philadelphia. The Islanders and Detroit. Like, look who you're losing to on home ice.
No dotting of I's, no crossing of T's.
Yeah. And, like, we've talked about how, I should say they're all regulation losses. Some of them were beyond regulation.
Philadelphia was,
Yeah, Detroit was. But you're
dropping points to them, nonetheless.
But we talked about managing your losses. In a lot of cases, these were regulation losses, Blake.
Yeah.
Like, these were regulation losses to bad teams. It's despicable. Okay, draft lottery simulator time. Or do you want to tell us about Yellow Dog first? Tell us about Yellow Dog.
Yeah, let's do that.
We're not going to play the simulator. We're just going to go through the draft lottery so you understand what we'll be talking about for the next 2 months.
Yellow Dog Brewing's released their first ever Super Tall can. The 568 ml Super Talls that contain the Wolfhound Nitro Irish Stout. Big, bold, undeniably classic. The dry Irish Stout's a sessionable blend of roasted coffee, caramel, velvet, malty notes. Available in both tasting rooms and in select locations. And the Irish Stouts have got a lot of momentum these days. If you have the kids are drinking the Stouts. Go check it out. This one's a nice one from Yellow Dog.
So here's where the NHL draft lottery stands these days. The Vancouver Canucks currently have the 15th best odds. That is second from the bottom of lottery teams. Only the Calgary Flames have thinner odds. It's just 0.5%, and that's to move up a maximum of 10 places. The NHL now conducts 2 lotteries with the draft lottery, one for the first pick, one for the second pick. But you have to be amongst the worst 11 teams to have a chance at the first overall pick. You have to be amongst the worst 12 teams to have a chance at the second overall pick. If a team like Vancouver from 15th wins one of these lotteries, they move up 10 places to the 5th overall pick. The worst team, currently San Jose, retains the first overall. Chicago retains. Whoever wins the second lottery wins the second pick. So right now the Canucks could only move up to the 5th overall, and again, there's a snowball's chance of that. They could get as high or low, depending on how you define it, as number 12. That's if the Rangers, Utah, and Columbus all bypass them in points.
Yes.
Now, you will see the Montreal Canadiens below them in points. You will also see the Ottawa Senators in range. But those 2 teams right now are in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and so they would not qualify for the draft lottery. So they could get as high as 12. They could also fall as low as 16 if they were to surpass the Calgary Flames in points by the end of the season.
Yeah.
That's your draft lottery refresher here on Sekeres and Price.
Do you, gun to your head right now to make a decision on this, do the Canucks use the draft pick?
Probably not. No. I'm going to bet. This is a franchise governed by the need for instant gratification of the billionaire owner.
Oh, I wouldn't even blame him in this case. I think it's the management that is on the.
Well, management takes its cues and understand. Well,
no,
yes.
but you could Aquilini could sell the house tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I still think this management group says we ain't got time for that.
Well, they're
draft
pod
pick.
committed. They're
Yeah.
pod committed.
Yeah. So I would be blown away at this point.
Mm-hmm. The only narrow window they had to set things up a little better for next year, they chose not to avail themselves of. Good thing they kept Besser, Suter, and Forbert at the deadline, huh? Good thing for that playoff push.
That lasted
which ends
2 weeks,
with 7
basically.
fucking games left.
Yeah. Well, and that's,
You didn't even. You got 13 games past the deadline.
that was being generous.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they've really been on life support for at least 5 games.
10 fucking games of Besser, Suter, and Forbert. That was worth it.
Yeah.
And don't buy Alvin's bullshit about the offers weren't there. No. The roster player offers weren't there. You could have absolutely added to your draft capital or your prospect capital to go out and make the trade for the second line center this summer. But the owner needed playoffs.
The one calculus,
No steps back.
The one calculus I think that they are using right now is they don't think that draft picks are going to have the same cachet this year. A, because of strength of draft, and B, because again, everybody's
No, there was no calculus there, Blake. Francesco told the management group, we've got to make the fucking playoffs. And the management group went, okay, well, then I guess we can't sell. And they looked around and looked at the prices and went, so rich, we don't really want to buy and supplement at that. Let's just move Soucy and call it a day. Francesco got what he wanted. Alvin didn't give up future assets. Indecision ruled the day. Here's where you are.
I think if they thought that draft picks were going to help them set themselves up for a good summer, they would have done it. But I think they looked at it.
I don't believe that.
Hey, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm telling you what I think they were thinking. I think they thought extra second rounds and third rounds are not going to help us. They're not going to be flippable because everybody's got cash to spend. Everybody's focused on being better next year. And nobody's thinking, I've got to beef up my cupboards. Like right down to the bottom, the Blackhawks and the Sharks are sick and tired of losing. Right down to them. Nobody's, quote unquote, really rebuilding now. The bad teams have been so bad for so long, Matt. All these teams at the bottom. Not even they are, quote unquote, rebuilding. I don't think anybody is hoarding draft picks. And so I think that they looked at that.
We'll see about Boston. We'll see about Philadelphia continually. We'll see about Pittsburgh. We'll see about the Islanders. We'll see about the Rangers. I think they're rebuilding candidates.
I think you can.
I think you make a lot of fair points there, but I think they're rebuilding candidates.
But hope springs eternal this year because of this cap.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and most teams have money.
Everybody wants to spend that money.
Yep.
Nobody's thinking, let's get 10 draft picks.
Right. Elliot Friedman said the Canucks didn't like Suter's asking price at the deadline. Guess what, fellas? It's only gone up since then.
Mm-hmm.
So tick-tock, like sooner the better. You're destitute at center. He's a pretty good one. And he's a primary penalty killer. In fact, you need a good news item here going forward. Get Pius Suter's name on a contract extension. At least your market, as they're contemplating increases to season tickets, look at it and go, okay, well, that's wise. It's a good, versatile player. Every team needs a piece like that.
What offer do you think makes him sign right now? Because his agent's probably just like, Pius, do not. We are going to July 1.
I hear you.
What's the offer that he absolutely said? 5x5, he probably signs that.
Mm-hmm.
But anything less than that.
It's an overpay, but it's an overpay you may be forced to do. And again, the cap's going up. And so you got to sort of shift your calculus of what a $5 million player, what a $4 million player is.
And realistically, he's probably this is a career high. I don't know that this is repeatable for Pius Suter, and that's with all due respect to him. I think he can get in the vicinity.
Mm-hmm. But if he's a vicinity guy at this stage, Blake, like what is he here? He's 22 and 20. So let's say he gets to 45 points. If you're telling me he's like a 40-point guy for the next 4 years, I'm quite happy with that. With the versatility he gives you, with the penalty killing utility he gives you, I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what I'm suggesting. 18 goals, 22 assists, if that's what you get over the next 3 seasons.
Yeah.
There may be some regression.
Blake, and I know it's imperfect stat, so fully acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
He's +2 this year. Do you know how many Canucks are plus?
How about Canuck forwards? Let's get more specific.
Oh, well, so the other free agent is -26. He's worst on the team by 10.
Mm-hmm.
DeBrusk is -16. Besser is -26.
Here's something that's going to break your brain.
Plus,
Here's something that's going to break your brain. The plus-minus leader on the forward ranks this season.
is it Höglander?
It is Nils Höglander.
Yeah. That's
By
6.
a country mile at
That's
+6.
Well, Suter at 2. Suter at 2.
But in terms of the full-time players, guys that are in there
Hey,
close
Matt
to every
Sasson
night.
is second at 3.
Yeah, just 24 games. But
Still.
the every night roster guys, there's 4. Myers, Suter, Hughes, and Höglander.
And imperfect stat.
But the differences are
what-
stark.
when the gap is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Friedman says they are just below Besser's asking price. You made a comment about Besser before we started doing the show today that I thought was wise. Share.
About play driving.
Yes.
Well, I think you have to take whatever, and if the market value on this player is $8.5–9 million, you have to just take that money and make that your centerman money. Whether that's via trade or signing.
Yeah.
But because he does not drive play, I mean, he's had an okay season in the end. His numbers are going to look okay. But he's not creating the goals. He's just finishing them. And I don't mean any disrespect by saying just. Just is a big job there. But still, he's not creating the goals. You need to spend that $9 million on somebody that's going to create the goals.
Yep.
And the $9 to $10 million creator is probably going to create a 25-goal scorer where you didn't think there was one. You know, he's not going to create a 40-goal scorer, but there's going to be some 18-goal scoring winger that a good creator can make into a 25-goal scorer. And that's going to be the victory for the Vancouver Canucks next season, not hoping that, you know, Brock Besser PDOs like crazy and scores 41 for you. Like, that's just, I really doubt that's happening.
The good news with the Canucks organization these days is in Abbotsford, where the baby Canucks continue this franchise best streak. 11 in a row. They beat San Diego 6-3. They have clinched a playoff spot now to the AHL's Calder Cup playoffs. Nikita Tolopilo, 23 saves. He's won 5 in a row. The team is 10-0 since Surrey's Jujhar Khaira joined from the Syracuse Tampa Bay Lightning farm team.
He's probably having a little bit of fun.
Well, and he's a very good player for that league.
Yeah.
So he's helped them in a major way. Kirill Kudryavtsev, Arshdeep Bains, and Max Sasson all score. Danila Klimovich with an assist. So second game in a row, we've talked about some of the quote-unquote prospects who have contributed. Because it's, you know, one thing to win AHL games with 28 to 31-year-olds. You want to see it with your younger group, and their younger groups were their younger group
And the
have
best
been
young
contributing.
And the best young players, of course, are with Vancouver right now.
That's the other thing, of course. Yeah, a number of the players who would be playing for the Abbotsford Canucks right now were in the lineup for the Vancouver.
Carlson, Ratu, Lekkerimäki, top line players for them.
Absolutely. I mean, Elias Pettersson had been with them.
Yeah.
You mentioned Ratu, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, shit. Even Nils Amon.
Who's been pretty good for the Canucks. Actually have been noticing him more in the last 12 games than in any swath of games
Nils
before
Amon,
this.
Linus Karlsson, Atsu Ratu, like, effort's not been the problem here.
No.
Effort and try and work rate and those sorts of things, like as Talkie was talking about, poise, decision making hasn't been the best, but guys are working hard. Like, you can't crucify them for that. You can be really pissed off, and boy, if I had bought a ticket to last night's game, I would have been really pissed off with the result, but the process wasn't that bad. All right, Greta, we'll be there a week from today for a Canucks Army watch party. We'll be giving away a lot of stuff. It's presented by Fountain Tire. Doors at 5, game at 6, Vancouver versus Colorado. GA tickets, $10. VIP pass, $40, gets you a burger, beer, a game card for the outstanding arcade. We've got exciting giveaways, a 50-50 draw in support of Kids Sport Vancouver. Raise some money there. Secure your spot now. Join the Canucks Army crew. We'll be there as well. nationgear.ca for tickets. We have Patrick Johnson coming up. Good debate with Patrick about management's biggest mistake this year. And Rob Williams joins as well on the program. And Rob offers some optimism. He goes, guys, I know it feels hopeless, but ... tells you why there's room for optimism next season. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. This segment proudly brought to you by Bet365, Sick Harrison Price partner. My guy McCann did not score, so I lost last night. You had a Canuck to score.
So that, needless to say,
Clearly did not.
And did you have Brian White in your future, Whitecap future? Did you have Brian White as a goal scorer?
I did not. No.
We didn't get that one.
No, I
either.
had Pumas actually to win.
And I had Whitecaps to win. So
Yeah.
we both
lost.
Bad couple of days.
Really bad couple of days.
For both of us.
I'm going Final Four this weekend, and I'm going to take Florida -2.5 over Auburn. Tigers were number one most of the season, but their star got banged up last week in their last game, and they haven't looked dominant in this tournament. Florida's had one close game, but their guards are just so good, so I'm going to take the Gators -2.5 to make it to Monday's national final. And one shining moment, Blake.
I'm going to look at the leading goal scorer in the National Hockey League, Leon Draisaitl, who I think is going to, against an inferior opponent, want to put this game out of reach early. I think he's going to be like, guys, we're not nail biting against the Sharks here tonight. It's not happening. So the Deutschland Dangler gets the first goal of the game. On my back, follow me, +550 for Draisaitl.
Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Deutschland Dangler.
Yeah.
Every face-off, hat trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, every suspenseful minute in between. Amazing. Do they call him that?
That was his WHL nickname.
Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the app and use the code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Patrick Johnston coming up next. Harrison Price, we're coming to you from the historic Wall Center.
And this segment brought to you by the dependable brand of motor vehicle that you have known for your entire life.
They've been in the electric car game forever.
And
the
electric lineup just picks up where the gas lineup, how many people know somebody that had a Toyota that went 300, 400K, right? Everybody knows that.
knows that person.
That same dependability, it's in the electric vehicles now. They started it all with the Prius, and now the BZ4X. Sporty coupe. Don't make it sound small in your head. Lots of space in the back for golf clubs, hockey gear, whatever you need. And because it's 100% electric, HOV lane compliant, and you never stop at a gas station for the rest of your existence. It's glorious. And right now, even more glorious because $6,500 is available in rebates and incentives. And how about this now? 0.99% APR financing for 36 months. You visit shoptoyota.ca, you visit your Pacific Toyota dealer, you take one for a test drive, you fall in love.
We have two Toyotas in the family that have made multiple Vancouver to Ontario trips, both well north of 200,000 K, and every time I bring them to the mechanic, they say, it's a terrific car.
Just finished a 360K Toyota.
Car will go forever.
Yeah.
Or close to it. Here's Patrick Johnson of the Province in Post Media.
Here
How
to
are
talk about my RAV4 hybrid,
There we go.
Boy.
and also
Attaboy.
the Corolla that I don't know what year that would have been. The Corolla died.
Do you remember those
Just
old
wouldn't
Corollas?
die.
Like you
Oh.
would see, like you could be driving in like 2008 and see like a 1988 Corolla still going, and
Yeah, 100%.
yeah. Okay.
Unlike the Canucks, who have stopped moving.
Oh,
They are not
Yeah.
moving forward anymore.
They're
Apparently
not-
they
they are
move their
not-
feet like a Toyota.
they are not getting to 300K on that
No.
odometer.
They had the puck a lot last night. They never looked really under siege, but no saves, no goals.
That's it. Yeah, no saves, no goals. I mean, that really was like Thatcher Demko. Not a good night. But it's kind of wild. 2 of the last 3 starts, not great goaltending. Not just from him. Kevin Lankin, obviously not great.
Yeah.
In a year where goaltending has not been a story, and I don't think it's become the story, but certainly been let down by goaltending at some crucial moments. And yeah, the struggle to create real good chances. I mean, Rick Talkett talked about it last game, like just that kind of ability to jump. And I think that's mostly, honestly, about talent. You know, they just don't have. Pius Suter's having a great finish to the season. He's going to get paid, but when it's behind him is Nils Oman, Teddy Bluger, and Atu Ratu. It's just there's just not enough there, and it's about the middle of the ice, and it's that simple. And I mean, you go long season. I've talked about this before. I think we've all talked about this before. The fact that Elias Pettersson had a terrible season. DT Miller was terrible before he left. Like, let's not forget that he was having an awful year. And when your team
Was he?
Oh yeah, it was having a terrible year. It was awful.
I mean, it was 35 points in 40 games, Patrick. It wasn't that awful.
Great. No, he was terrible. He was brutal.
Okay.
Defensively.
He was brutal, man. Come on.
Well, I'm sitting here looking at nearly a
Do
point
you remember
per
how
game
bad
player.
he was? So checked out at the end, Matt. He was absolutely checked out.
I don't dismiss that, Patrick. I'm not saying he wasn't having a substandard year, but I'm sitting here looking at 35 points in 40 games and going, what? They could have really used that in February and March when you were making a playoff push with no
but
other
that's
goals.
how bad things are.
And
Like, the
offense
point
being
is,
created in the
but
lineup. Well, no, but I mean, that's a 70-point player.
Great. He was crap. He was having a terrible season.
He'd be
He had
their
9
leading
goals,
offensive
Matt, he had
forward
9
by
goals.
miles.
He was
in
on
points.
track. He was on track for the lowest scoring season since, like, in terms of goals in the net. And they needed him to score. He wasn't scoring.
Okay. Agree to disagree. Can we move on from the game? I think less said about last night's game. the better.
We've moved on
Okay,
from the
all
game.
right.
We've moved
I
on.
wanna
They,
move on from
they don't score enough. They don't
Right.
defend
There's
well
nothing
enough.
else we need to say about the game last night. Didn't get a goal, didn't get a save.
Pete, do you agree with my assertion that this team actually isn't defending that well? They are 12th, I believe, on the season in goals against per game. In the last month, they are 8th worst in the league, well over 3.5 goals per game. This was supposed to be their path if they were going to get above the bar and stay above the bar. Goaltending and
They're
defense.
20th in the league in goals against.
Goals against per game?
Yes, 309.
Okay.
Yeah,
right now,
you're
they
not
are
wrong. They
13th.
fall
8th worst.
The overall package has fallen off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, overall, in terms of shots against and where the shots are coming from, they've still been pretty decent, but they haven't gotten the saves. That's been part of the story here.
They're 13th worst. 13th worst.
13th worst.
Right before Kevin Lankinen signed his extension, he started to fall back to. Not that he was ever like flying high above the earth. He was being quietly competent in a way they needed him to be, giving them saves, giving them a chance to win. And yeah, they've started. You're right. You're absolutely right. Like they have been giving up goals. Structurally, they've been basically fine, but they haven't had mad scrambles. Like think about just the visual of it. They have an insanely bad scrambles. Like there's no Boudreaux era defending here. But
it's not like the offense is letting them down, because otherwise they would be winning. Like they would need to be a very good offense.
yes, absolutely.
To
Yeah, and
outscore
they have
what
to
they're giving up.
yeah, what the goals are going in. There's no doubt about it. Like that's the other part of the last month is that if they were going to win, they were going to win 2-1, and they haven't had 2-1 games, right? They, as you said, they've been giving up goals.
It's 3.6 goals allowed
It's
per
slipped.
game, like way above their
Slipped.
season average.
Yeah, it's slipped. Like and yeah, like but like look at the shots. Like the shots are down. The shots are still down. Like this is a save percentage problem as much as anything. And part of that is because they have had. I mean, Archer Sheloffs has what 9-10 starts. I forgot, but that's a reasonable percentage of your season where you basically didn't. I mean, you guys are gonna clip this. I know you didn't have a goalie. Poor guy, but that's the truth. Demko took a while to get rolling. Then he got rolling, but then he was good. It wasn't very. He was terrible last night. And Kevin Lankinen hasn't been very good, and it's just not been, the package has not been when they've been at their best, and they have had good stretches this season where they've been defending up till, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. I thought they were still looking good, but as things have worn on, and a lot of this is about the inability to sustain stuff offensively. And they, in theory, they created more puck possession, but they're not having shifts where they're camped out on the other end, right? Like,
No.
yeah. So,
Okay.
it's been a struggle, and defensively, I don't think you're wrong.
Surrey Mitsubishi poll question: does one of Elias Pettersson or Rick Tocchet have to go? Can they coexist? Can you run them back? You tried to make Pettersson and Miller work when you knew there was an issue there, and ultimately had to admit defeat and make a bad trade. Do you learn your lesson and rip the Band-Aid on either coach or player this summer, or do you try and run them back again next year?
It's a tricky one. I mean, the Tocchet Pettersson story, I think, is kind of all we're going to talk about here. Like, are they going to go again with these guys? And I think the coach has his preference, and I don't think it's Elias Pettersson. And if you don't move on with Elias Pettersson, what are you moving on with? Like, I just don't know how you square all this together. And you can hear what Tocchet emphasizes in his discussions now is the youth of the team, and he's not wrong. There's a lot of young players on this team, but the core of the team remains Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson and Thatcher Demko, and for now anyway, Brock Besser. And yeah, it's a thing that they need to figure out what this team's going to be, because the removal of Miller changed the direction of this team, and demanded that they figure out what they're going to do next. And that's certainly, I think, where they're at with the coach. The coach wants to know, what am I looking at? Irrespective of what you guys are offering me, what am I looking at? What is this team? How is this team set up? What is it going to be next year? Like, obviously they have a timeline with Quinn Hughes now, but like, who are the centers going to be? I mean, this comes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, in the end, if you don't have Miller, like, are you moving forward with Pettersson? Are you going to find a whole different way? And how are you going to do that? Because like, you look at the way their cap is better, but they've still committed a lot of money in net, right? So is that a commitment you're going to carry on with? Are you going to have to think creatively in terms of how you're going to bring players in? Like, John Tavares, I think, is a very interesting free agent, but does he want to come here? And is that a direction you're going to go? Because you're probably going to have to commit to a 34-year-old center, right? Like, the options that are out there are challenging. The idea of, well, let's go, maybe they should make an offer sheet. On who? Like, you have to find a team that's in cap trouble, right? That has a player that they aren't going to be able to protect, like the Oilers were looking at. And with the cap going up, assuming it does go up the way they think it's going to go up, like there are fewer and fewer options like presented to you where you could chase after a player like that. So they're in a very
overpay,
very difficult spot.
Yeah.
And so that's literally where you're looking at. This is what the coach is going to have to consider where he's going.
Marco Rossi.
Yeah, like Marco Rossi, I think, Corrado mentioned the other, great idea, but I'm just like, you have, where is Minnesota actually going to be sitting this summer?
Minnesota has all that Suter and Parisi money coming off the book.
Is Rick Tocchet holding back Elias Pettersson, either tactically, emotionally?
I don't know. It's tough to say. Like, I think, like, the lack of performance we know is complicated. Like, I just wonder where they are. Obviously, the coach, he knows he's only as good as his players are going to be, right? Like,
Yes.
like that's the thing, and that's the coach's challenge: is can you get the player to a place beyond where they are right now? And I think it's fair to say that he helped Quinn Hughes get there, and I think to a degree he helped Brock Besser get there. I think to agree he got JT Miller there. I mean, look at how Miller was playing last year, right? Like, Matt, and just to go back to the other point, I mean, that's kind of what I think of. Is like, look how good he was last year, right? Like, he was a dominant force when he was on his game. He was an absolute horse in the playoffs, right? Like, that player was the guy that that was who JT Miller always thought he could be, but I don't know if he ever knew how to really get there. And it really, I think in this case, was something that Tocchet and Adam Foote helped him get there, in the sense of guiding him emotionally. I mean, obviously a highly volatile, highly emotional player, a catalyst, to steal a phrase from someone else. And when they were winning, it worked great, and when they were losing, it did not. And that's beyond the coach. That's on the player. And that comes back to Pettersson, right? Like, Pettersson struggled, came back from the All-Star break, starting to struggle, was terrible, not very good in the playoffs, mostly terrible this season. The coach has seen a year of that. And in the end, he keeps his job by winning, and they haven't been winning. Whether he keeps his job, I think, is separate from that moment. But going forward, success is contingent on the player and connecting with the player. So, the motivation is there for Tocchet to make it work, right? But at the end of the day, it takes two to tango, and if it's not going to work, someone's got to go, I think.
When you look back on management's year,
Yeah.
was the biggest mistake that we're going to get Rick Tocchet and Quinn Hughes and JT Miller to toughen Elias up, coming off a knee injury or tendonitis or whatever Elias was going through with his knee? Do you think that was the biggest mistake? Do you think it was the summer that they had, which obviously fell short?
I think it was the summer. I mean, I think that sort of that narrative, that toughen up narrative, I'm cautious about that one, because I think there's a lot of layers we still don't understand about sort of what that actually meant. Certainly in the big picture, from the beginning, there's been a push from management that if this group is going to succeed, they're going to have to go a new direction, basically. That they, in terms of their preparation, in terms of their mentality, and trying to get these young stars to recognize where they need to get to. And as I mentioned before, like Quinn Hughes figured that out. The challenge for a coach and for a manager is to get the player to a place they didn't even know they could get to. They've got the talent. They hopefully have the will, but you have to push the right buttons. But no, I think the failure in the end was last summer. I mean, partly or not knowing what was going to happen with Demko, or where the Demko story turned. Yeah. I mean, that was a real variable that I think we need to understand more about, because that.
But they salvaged it reasonably well.
They did salvage it reasonably well in the end, but partly, they ended up committing to Vinny Desharnais for reasons that none of us ever understood.
Yeah, but you got rid of him quickly enough. Like,
I know, but I'm just saying, but that was it was wasted time.
34. Yeah, no, sure, fair. But
right?
like the summer, they also added Lankin was a good ad. Sure was a good ad.
Yeah,
DeBrusk, I can find worse ways to spend $5.5 million.
Yeah. There were good things they did, for sure.
They took and you can be careful with it, and I do understand that it's layered and it's context, and we don't have all the information, but they were hell bent on trying to turn Elias Pettersson into a tougher, fight through, push through, be more like Sidney Crosby, number one. Franchise cornerstone on a cup winner or contender centerman. Yeah. And the strategy backfired spectacularly.
Sure. And I mean, but I will also say, how much of that is on the player, right? Like you,
Fair.
right? Like
No, it's not.
this is
Some
an
of-
immensely talented player who was a disaster, and to succeed, they needed him to get beyond where he'd been. Right, like he had achieved some good stuff. Like let's not forget, like 103-point season. Like guy that we were starting to talk. Maybe this. I mean, the joke this year itself, but like we were talking Selke a couple of years ago, right? A guy that was a contributor in both ways, and then just fell off a cliff and for reasons that I think we still don't quite understand.
In the
then
middle
was
of
it
a year too, not
the middle
year
of
to
the
year.
year.
In the
And, like,
middle of
and-
last year.
And
I
he
think-
in the middle of a year where he was a fantastic player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But guys, I think Brad Richardson was 100% right. JT Miller lost him. Then Rick Tocchet lost him. Then the Vancouver Canucks lost him. I don't think Elias Pettersson trusts anybody
no.
at Rogers Arena. I think he is completely broken in terms of trust and belief that these guys can steer his career in the correct way. And I don't necessarily think he's right on that.
Well, I think it underlies. I mean,
but-
it comes to me. Does he understand what any of that means? You know, like he's look at here's a player who his entire career, his entire life growing up, he'd been the top guy because he had been the, he could just do it. He can do it, get to the level. And now you're at the summit, the absolute summit. And this is not a new story. It just is, it's a bit different because usually we're seeing it being a guy, well, he tries to live on his talent and it just doesn't
Yep.
work.
And I
The
think
thing was,
the
he was
Canucks were
succeeding
right.
on his own terms. But the question comes back to how much better could he be?
Yep.
How much better does he need to be?
Right.
And that, I think, that absolutely is. There is an absolute. I don't know
And
what the
I
word
think
is, but
when
there
the
was
knee
there's a thing
tendonitis
there.
flared up in the second half of last year, and it affected his performance, I think the Vancouver Canucks looked at it and went like, "This is an ailment. He is hurt. He is not injured. This is something that he needs to learn how to play through and push through, and still be the player that he has been in the first half of the season." And when he didn't do that, and then when he stepped to that podium for the exit media session and he chronicled the knee issue and blamed it all on that, I think these guys lost their cotton picking minds and said, "We'll fucking show him." And then it became Operation Toughen Up Elias by every means, including unleashing JT Miller and his lack of tact on him. And I think the moment that happened, Elias withdrew.
It certainly. I think your premise is not impossible, and I can't help but sit back and look at
Not impossible.
Quinn Hughes. No, but just let me hear. Like
You wanted
look at Quinn-
confirmation?
Well,
But I'm just saying, look at Quinn
You
Hughes.
make it
Look
sound
at the
like it's,
comparison, though. No, hold on.
quackery.
Look at the comparison here. Quinn Hughes is at whatever percent he is. I know he claimed he's at 100%, but like, listen, we know Quinn Hughes is playing through all kinds of stuff, right? His coaches literally said that. The contrast could not be more obvious to what you're saying, Matt, right? And that's why I think, like in the end, your premise, it makes a whole lot of sense. It's very believable because of exactly that.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I think it was the right idea, if not the wrong approach. And I think in time, with the benefit of experience and more maturity, Elias will understand better what they were trying to do and understand that it was for his benefit. And I don't think he understands that now. And if he doesn't, then guess what? These guys are right. You're not winning a cup with him. He'll be a great regular season player, cash a lot of checks, put up some points, make some All-Star games, but he won't be lifting Lord Stanley's Cup.
Well,
Well,
I don't think you can be that absolute about it. There's not
Okay.
more than one way to skin this cat here. Like, at what point do they just try to replicate
when the going
conditions?
gets tough, if he's going to continuously demur, Blake, then that is not a centerpiece on a Stanley Cup
When
champion.
the going gets tough, what though? Physically, tactically,
Everything. The
Why?
pressure, physically, playing through injury, tighter spaces, tighter checking, better defensive players, all of that. When the going gets tough, if he continuously demurs, then he's not a centerpiece on a championship club.
The thing to remember is this is a guy that was performing, right? Like the way he fell off was so unprecedented in the course of his career.
Yeah.
Like that's the challenge, is that it was, what the heck is going on? What are we going to do? How can we possibly find him, get him back to where he was, right? What does he need? What do we need to do along the way so that this doesn't happen again, right? Like that was, again, the coaching challenge and the leadership challenge. Is this is a player that needs, whether you want to call it tough love or a push, or or a little bit more, a little bit more, just like, as you said, toughen up, whatever it is, yeah, absolutely. There is a standard they were trying to get him to, that they believed he could get to, and obviously it didn't work because he's had a terrible season.
And I think, guys, the Four Nations face-off is instructive here, albeit in a small sample size. You also reduce your expectations. So you don't need him to score 3 goals in those games. You don't need him to have 2 points per game. But we were looking microscopically for flashes of something in those games under with a different climate, with different teammates, a different coach, and a coach who gave him every bit of leash to succeed. And there was still nothing, like nothing. So what does that inform us?
Yeah.
That's
it. Like, I mean,
it's not Tocchet and the Canucks necessarily. This looks like it's just the player right now, doesn't it?
I mean, if you're another team, you're looking at him going, well, the Canucks have a player they're paying a lot of money who hasn't been performing. Why is that? And you're going to ask the Canucks, and they're going to say, well, we think it's this, and this. Or they're not going to say that. They're going to say, well, look at what he's done before. But he's a damaged commodity one way or another. Mm-hmm. And whether the Canucks hang on to him and try to persist with that, or they move on, move him somewhere else, it's not this dilemma is. I think I said this before. I mean, the whole situation is nightmare scenario. They moved on from the center they committed with, right? You go back to 3 years, when they had the 3 guys, right? Mm-hmm. They made a choice on 2 of them. And then the guy they picked blew up in their faces in a way that whether they should have expected or not, I don't think they did, because
no
they
one in
committed
the league
to the
did.
guy.
It's not fair to have it. It's hindsight. Everybody thought that was the guy to.
No. It is fair to have it. It is fair to have it for this reason. You knew Miller and Pettersson were not good.
Yeah.
You knew Horvat and Pettersson were good. Yeah. You chose Miller.
Yeah.
Well, I meant the choosing of Pettersson was not ill-informed.
Oh, okay. I thought we were talking Horvat.
No, that's it, right? Like in the end, the choices, they made some choices, and I do think along the way they knew it was going to be a situation to manage for a while. They knew it was going to be a situation to manage, but there are lots of teams that have succeeded with. There was a team here in town that had centers that, a center that was not a popular teammate, but they still almost did it. Like the way this blew up in such a way that it became the nightmare scenario, and then that Pettersson, has so struggled to find his way through that. I mean, he was playing a lot better. He was skating a lot harder and shooting a lot better, right? Before he got hurt. But it was still, in the grand scheme of things, a blip. So now they've got to sit back and be, okay, this guy's going to come back with his latest injury next year. What is he? Can he be the guy that we believe he can? Like, what have we learned? What's the new information we've learned?
Yeah.
That's the new judgment they have to make.
Well, a few things. The difference between Kessler and Miller is that the room kept Kessler in check.
Yeah, absolutely.
JT demanded full control of
absolutely.
the room.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing, I don't put a ton of stock, fellas, into the Four Nations face-off. It was so short.
But again,
you're playing with new line mates and shit like that. So,
Matt, seconds. I was looking for seconds.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
The bar is on the floor.
He was horrible.
Yeah.
He was horrible. But the idea that was going to be a panacea, or that further sewered him with the Canucks, I have trouble.
It just gave you a glimpse as to what's the issue here. And he was in a completely new climate, and we couldn't perform. We couldn't see seconds.
And Patrick is now right. Like, it's going to be hard to stuff the genie back into the bottle, which brings me to my final question. Like, Tocchet's comments again on Pettersson and the injury this week, Patrick. Like, a lot of Pettersson backers will say it's piling on. Others are saying, wait a second, an upper body injury discomfort, skated. These are the biggest games of the fucking season. Where are you?
Well, did you hear my question to him? I said, if this were the playoffs.
Oh, I didn't hear that. What did he say?
Well, he said that's a good question. He paused and thought about it. The reaction said a lot.
Yeah, and just to be fair, like, I think Rick Tocchet is on one extreme of playthrough. Like,
absolutely.
I'm not sure there are many who are harder core on playthrough than Rick Tocchet. And I think Elias might be on the other extreme of my knee doesn't feel well today.
And I think there is like let's be fair in all this. Like, the other thing, I think Tocchet recognizes that his sort of own expectations on himself are what he put on himself, and he tries to be moderate and reasonable. And I think as general has been a pretty effective players coach because of that.
Yeah.
But you're also
I think
running
he
into
has
a
a hard
generational thing.
Yeah,
you are
yeah,
running into a
exactly.
generational thing,
I
right?
think you
Like,
are as
that's
well.
just
Yep.
how you're handled and how you react and how you react to how you're spoken to is fundamentally different. There is a big
Every
difference.
sport's running into this too.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. All right. Good talk.
That was a
First
lot.
of many. Yeah, it was. But it was pithy conversation, Patrick. And we got a lot of these coming up. And frankly, I'm so looking forward to Thursdays because you're one of the guests that we can have this with.
Well, yeah, I mean, and just listen, there's gonna be a lot of postmortem. What went wrong this season?
Right,
and,
and there's a lot that went wrong, and there's a lot of narrow paths forward that we're gonna have to consider.
Yeah,
I'm so fatalistic about this. Honestly,
He woke up today.
Apoplectic.
The sky did actually fall in North Van. Over Blake's house.
PJ,
careful if you're in the Lynn Valley, Edgemont area. The sky is coming down.
I know
today.
we said we were going to say goodbye to you, but I don't see a very easy path for them to be a good team next year.
Here we go.
No, that's next week's topic.
Yeah. Another all-in rabbit out of the hat summer coming up for your Vancouver Canucks. This is Carson Price, and we're from the historic Wall Center.
And this segment is brought to you by Resurrection Spirits, purveyors of fine spirits out of East Vancouver, proudly BC made using BC ingredients, and that extends to the brand new Carson Price gin. Yes, we've pulled it off. We have booze with our label on it. It's pretty astounding. And it's also amazing to drink. So for the spring and summer season, your S&P GNTs, check it out. You can get $5 off with the S&P code, S&P. That'll get you $5 off, and delivery is now available. ResurrectionSpirits.ca.
Rob Williams is the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports vertical. He joins us on Thursdays. Rob, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, guys.
How about those Canucks? 10 in a row, and they're going to the playoffs.
Yeah, 11 in a row, actually.
Yeah, good news for folks in the Fraser Valley. That's unbelievable. I mean, I guess I'd be totally fine if we just talk about the Abbey Canucks on this episode, guys. But the Canucks, the Vancouver Canucks, of course, have never won the Stanley Cup. Do you know that their AHL affiliate has never won the Calder Cup? That's kind of
tracks.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you think you'd stumble into an AHL championship.
They've been there a couple times.
Yeah, Utica got there once, as I recall.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get to the big club, and I got to say, Rob sends us a few topics every week that he wants to hit on, and I was stopped in my tracks with this bullet point. Where do the Canucks go from here? I actually don't think it's as bad as it feels. Reason for optimism. Rob, pray tell. I am all ears. A province is all ears.
And this is kind of against your brand, by the way.
Yeah.
You've been sort of I don't say negative, but you've been worried a little bit, and now not so much?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I just don't think, I think it feels really bad right now, right? It feels like they are hopeless going forward.
Yeah.
And what on earth are they going to do this summer? And they do need a big summer. The management needs to, I mean, I think you see every year with teams, a team that has a good summer of trades and free agency can turn their team around. Look to the Washington Capitals, you know, the best example of that this season. Look to the Canucks a year ago when they seemed to make all the right tweaks around the fringes. So they do need to make some moves. I'm not saying they stand pat or anything like that, but I do wonder, like, can Thatcher Demko return? Like, that's not the guy we saw last night. Like, that's not Thatcher Demko. Like,
No.
The goals that were going in on him looking small in the net, that's not Thatcher Demko. So can he return to be the guy that we I think all think he can be? Can Elias Pettersson return to some semblance of the guy that I think he can be? I think likely the answer is yes. And will they be as cursed with injury trouble all season next year as they were this year? You know, hopefully not. So I think if you get a few more of those things breaking your way, you know, it's not as bleak as it looks and feels right now, because it absolutely looks and feels so bleak and so hopeless, I think, for fans.
Who do you think the fans want to cheer on besides Quinn Hughes right now? Like, who, and I guess besides Pettersson, because Pettersson is sitting there ready to be embraced by the fan base, but they need some feedback from him, obviously. But who else is there, do you think, that the Vancouver Canucks fans really want to cheer on, that has the potential to be another star on this team? And I would say that they just don't have anybody else to lean on. There's nobody else besides Quinn Hughes right now that is safe for people.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking star level, that's a hard one to reach. But I think
somebody that wins the games for them, you know?
Yeah, I do think there's a connection with all the guys that have been here for a while. It's kind of a weird situation, isn't it? Where you've got a collection of players that have been drafted and developed by the team. They've come into their own. I'm talking about guys like obviously Pettersson and Hughes, but also Besser and Demko and whatnot. So there's a connection because we've seen these guys grow up in front of our eyes, yet they've done so much losing. And there's a real frustration on that side of things as well. So who are they cheering for? I think Canucks fans will get behind anybody that can help them win. But I do think the guys like Besser, I mean, I don't think he's going to be back next year, but I do think Besser is still a fan favorite. But at the same, you know, like I say, at the same time, you know, he hasn't had a great year, so there's frustration there. But I think that it's natural to really want to pull for these players that you've been watching for years.
But cheering for role players is one thing. It feels like somebody's kicked cornerstones out from the foundation of the Vancouver Canucks, you know? And if you're looking for somebody to drag the Canucks across the finish line, and I would have said Thatcher Demko, but he's not in the right place. I would have said Pettersson, but he's not in the right place. It just feels like Quinn Hughes is all alone right now. And when you're a fan watching the game and you're thinking, who's going to make a difference for me tonight? You know, who's it going to be?
Pius Suter, Teddy Bluger. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the thing that people are probably latching onto right now, if you're looking for hope and optimism, is the call-ups from Abbotsford. Aatu Räty. Is he, you know, like what can he be? I don't think he's going to be a star level player, of course, but is he going to be a reliable two-way center that can help you win games? I think he's showing some signs of that. I think if you look at Elias Pettersson on defense, Mancini on defense, like these are you know, positive signs here. But again, these are positive signs generally for a team that's marching on their way to miss the playoffs, and you start looking for hope and optimism. You start looking for prospects and looking to the future. So I think that's what you're left with right now because they're going nowhere fast.
Are you done grilling Rob Williams?
Grilling.
Wow.
We started so positive there, and then
I know, and then he
and
just
ended
wanted
in
to
going
throw you
nowhere
under
fast.
heat lamps.
Did you watch the game last night?
Yeah. I read they the should have won-o-meter or deserved to win-o-meter had them at like 80-some% according to Noah Strang,
Guys,
Daily Hive correspondent.
their home record this year is just unbelievable. I mean, like, they are third last in the league in home wins this year, 30th out of 32 teams. Like, look no further to that. If they were just bad and not dreadful, like, they're in a playoff chase right now. Like, it's unbelievable. I talked to a guy in my hockey team last night that had season tickets, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not renewing." He's like, I took my daughter to her first game. They didn't even score a goal. Like, and there's been a lot of nights like that this season. So I really wonder, this season has been made so much worse by the fact that they've done so much they've reserved so much of the losing for home ice.
15 of the 36 games they've won.
And they're also third from the bottom in home goals behind
Not entertaining, not
Minnesota
winning.
and Chicago. Okay, big picture.
And you'll only have to pay 20% more to watch all that next year, by the way.
Our Surrey Mitsubishi Polka, although as Rob's first answer, Petey's likely to rebound. They probably won't be as injured at key positions. They probably won't be as bad at home next year. I mean, it would be hard to be this bad at home for a second consecutive year with the talent that they do have. It's not like they're San Jose or Chicago talent level. Rob, the Surrey Mitsubishi poll question today: does one of Elias Pettersson or Rick Tocchet have to go? And what did you make of the way the coach characterized Pettersson's injury situation this week?
I mean, I guess they know, right? I mean, I don't think talking about things that, should be better next year. Like, Pettersson can't be feuding with somebody else on the team, can he? You'd hope that this is something that they can get past, and that this is something where Pettersson just needs to play better. Now, can he play better under this coach? I guess is a question we need to ask. I think yes. I think that we've seen Pettersson thrive. It's not like we haven't seen Pettersson play well under this coach. It's just been a while, right? So I do think that this is a coach that can get the best out of Pettersson. I am still a Rick Tocchet believer. I know there's some haters out there now. I think he's a good coach. So yeah, I do wonder when
So you think they can both come back?
I think so, but when you hear Tocchet speak, it does sort of feel like, geez, okay, he's obviously frustrated, like as is everyone, about the way Pettersson's playing. I do think that a summer off for everyone to kind of cool down, get some rest, get a good summer of training in. Pettersson needs that more than anyone right now. I think that that'll heal quite a bit, and for Tocchet, it's like he needs a mental reset at this point. I mean, I think he must feel like he's taking crazy pills with the way the team's playing for him this year. They have that road trip where I think they showed a ton of heart and character, and geez, they'd like to win that game in Columbus, and imagine if they'd had done that, how we'd view that road trip, and come back and just lay an egg against Seattle of all teams. I mean, it's been a frustrating one for everyone, and Tocchet probably is at the top of the list.
Do you think Tocchet's hesitancy to sign a contract extension means he'd prefer to be elsewhere, or at least wants to explore the market?
Good question. I wonder if I don't know if he felt slighted. I look back at it. I wrote a story in January of 2024, like last year, saying like Tocchet's due for a big raise this summer. Like, I was expecting the extension to come, last summer, not for this to kind of trickle into this year. So it's a bit of a weird one for me. The same time, like, Tocchet seems to have a really good relationship with this management group. As he said the other day, they go way back. It's a hard one it's hard for me to get into Tocchet's head here. I mean, I think would you be tempted to go somewhere else to a team that maybe has a chance to win a Stanley Cup in quicker order? I would imagine so. But I don't view this as necessarily that this is talk at, trying to get the first ticket out of Vancouver, because he's had a frustrating year. I think we talked about the Flyers before. The Flyers thing doesn't make a ton of sense to me, other than the fact that there's an obvious connection with him in Philadelphia. But that team is not a team I don't think he'd be enjoying being behind the bench of right now either. So I know it's like I say, hard to get into his head, but I don't think it's a necessary thing where connecting A and B.
Yeah. Lastly, from me, Rob, but voting is open for the Canucks Team Awards. We know how you feel about Unsung Hero and Tyler Myers. You think most exciting player is an interesting one?
See, I think it's interesting in a lot of years because I think the fans get these awards wrong a lot because these are fan voted awards. Last season, Quinn Hughes has never won team MVP. Even last year when he wins the Norris Trophy, first Canucks defenseman ever to win the Norris Trophy. We've been waiting forever for a player to win the Norris Trophy in Canucks colors, and they gave MVP to JT Miller. Which Miller, of course, had a great year, but come on, you got to give it to the Norris guy in the Norris year, don't you? Mm-hmm. Quinn Hughes undoubtedly is going to win MVP this year. He's undoubtedly going to win the Best Defenseman award again this season. Who's going to win Most Exciting Player? I do wonder if Canucks fans filling out their ballots are going to go Quinn Hughes for MVP, Quinn Hughes for Best Defenseman, and then when they get to Most Exciting Player, are they going to fill in Quinn Hughes as they should? He's absolutely their most exciting player this season. Or are they going to get bored and go with one of the other four options? So these are your other four options: Connor Garland, Elias Pettersson, Kiefer Sherwood, Jake DeBrusk.
Oh my God.
I could see Garland winning it, but it absolutely should be going to Hughes.
I could see Sherwood.
Sherwood's the unsung hero, though.
A bunch of. You think Sherwood's going to be unsung hero?
Yeah.
I think Sherwood will win unsung hero. I would give it to Myers, but I think Sherwood's going to win that one. I would agree.
Mm-hmm. Is Myers a candidate there? Can you vote for Myers?
Yeah, these are your unsung hero candidates. I mean, you can do a write-in vote for every one of them, but they gave 4 to 6 options for each guy. Mm-hmm. Kiefer Sherwood, Pius Suter, Teddy Bluger, Tyler Myers, Kevin Lankinen, and Derek Forbort.
You know what is the problem with this team? There are way too many candidates for unsung hero because they're all
not enough,
third and fourth line players.
Not enough MVP.
Yes. One clear MVP candidate and a bunch of that was a really nice season for that role player.
Last year we had multiple MVP. Not really, but it actually
there was a debate
as
to be
it turned out. We did. Yes, unsung heroes. And then if you're really, really bad, you don't even have candidates for unsung hero. You're ours, Rob. Thank you for this. We'll catch up next Thursday.
Thanks, guys.
The Vancouver Canadians are back at the Nat. Catch fireworks, giveaways, and Friday nooners all spring and summer long. Get your tickets at CanadiansBaseball.com.
Harrison Price from the Historic Wall Center. Extend your game night with a staycation in downtown Vancouver. Book a Harrison Price exclusive rate here at the Wall. Call the hotel 604-331-1000. Tell them we sent you. Some blackout date supply based on availability. Blake is killing it with his Safeway My NHL picks. So what you got for us this week?
If you'd like to know 5 winning games,
here we go.
I'm report. It's like Minority Report.
We're 3-2 last week. Let's.
I'm like sliding into the pool. I'm putting those Minority Report hoses into my head.
Oh my God, the horse is high.
Here's my prognostications because Scene Plus points are life. Montreal over Boston. Boston.
Done. It's sinking like a stone.
They make the Canucks look like a wagon, for heaven's sakes.
Bob Dylan.
The St. Louis Blues, I am predicting they still do not lose.
Oh, my gosh. Well, it's Pittsburgh.
And they're at home. The Edmonton Oilers beating the San Jose Sharks as the Oilers get a little bit more healthy.
So brave.
all three of those games tonight. Tomorrow, got the Capitals, buoyed by this chase of Gretzky taking down the Chicago Blackhawks. And yes, I have predicted a Vancouver Canucks victory. I'm thinking hoping that maybe they were embarrassed enough last night that they beat the Ducks.
That's maybe the most controversial of them all.
It is. And a good week this week puts me above 25 correct picks, which means the next time I spend $10, I'll get 1,000 Scene Plus points. You too can do this and earn special offers on great groceries from NHL supplying partners, and you get all these Scene Plus points. New slate of games opens up every Thursday. That's today. Go make your picks now.
Whitecaps with a hard luck 1-1 draw v Pumas on Wednesday. A late equalizer for the Mexican side. So the away goal looms heading into leg 2 Wednesday in Mexico. A game marked by a lot of delays. The lights were going out at BC Place.
Very weird.
And Pumas fakery. So much so, with their keeper, the Caps head coach Jesper Sorensen in the postgame quips, "I hope he survives." Well done, Jesper. Brian White scores. Ocampo looks good. Newcomer Sabi with a drive down the right side. And they continue to have a lot of the ball and look pretty good on the ball.
Yeah, that's the best defense, obviously. They didn't surrender a counter goal like they did versus Monterrey, but the young sub, Badwal, coming off the bench late, doesn't find his mark on former MLS veteran Coco Carrasquilla, who has a volley goal there that is beautiful. And he was all alone there on the corner. So that's too bad because they did have the ball the whole game. There were some nice performances. They weren't terribly dangerous in the final third, I'll say that. Like without Kubas and Gauld and Adekube, they aren't and Jaden Nelson didn't play for the most part as well, right? He was a late sub as well. So, their main offensive drivers were not involved in the bulk of the game. Let's hope they can get a little bit more healthy for the second leg. But hey, they're keeping their head above water. Really, all this takes out is a 0-0 and 1-1 draw. They're going to need to do better than 0-0 or 1-1.
Well, 1-1 gets them to
extra time at least. But it just means they have to go down and win. But if they lose if they tie a high scoring game, that's good enough as well.
They're through to the semifinals and potentially a date with Lionel Messi and
who are down a goal. They are down a goal to LAFC. Yeah. So
before that, though, Caps at home Saturday to Colorado. It's a 6:30 start at BC Place. Rapids, one of 4 teams in the MLS West who are within striking distance and could leapfrog Vancouver for first place in the conference. It's actually a pretty good conference here. There are a number of teams playing well through the early stages of the MLS season. BC Lions defensive tackle Josh Banks retires. He had been a free agent. He played 64 games with the team. He was a big part of the run defense in 22-23 when they made those West Division finals. Jays off to a 5-2 start, sweeping the Nationals. They won 4 in a row. They begin their first road trip of the season in New York against the Mets and Juan Soto.
I'll say this about the Jays. They're doing it in a very calm style. Like it's not hot bats. It's not hot pitching. It's just good for both. It's good bats, good pitching. Right. They're winning 5-2 games.
They gave up a lead on Tuesday and then came right back. Bichette looks pretty good. Jimenez has been fantastic, the newcomer at second base. The M's beat reigning Cy Young Award winner Tarek Skubal and the Tigers to avoid the sweep before just 15,005 in a matinee at T-Mobile. They're off to San Francisco, face a hot starting Giants team. You've seen the NL West? Dodgers are 8-0. It's a record for a defending champion. San Diego is 7-0, and San Francisco has just 1 loss. It's a itty-bitty roadie for the M's. They're back home next week for both Texas teams, starting with the Astros. And, of course, the Vancouver Canadians start Friday in Spokane. Their home opener is Tuesday, April 15th against the Eugene Emeralds. That is a 7:05 first pitch. They're start at Tri-Cities. The C's do, not Spokane. They go to Spokane afterwards. April 15th versus Eugene. First pitch, 7:05 at the Nat Tickets 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com.
They probably wish they could bump up a few games this week with the weather being
Yeah,
as good as it is.
Today it's gorgeous, but usually these are tougher games to sell because of drizzle.
And competing sports, but
Yes.
a couple of those will be out of the way soon.
Yes, and don't look now, but Nikola Jokic is making a late push for the NBA MVP against Canadian Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's trying to walk in Steve Nash's shoes. His game Tuesday against Minnesota, 61 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, a triple-double with a 60 spot. It was so good that members of the Timberwolves were calling it the best individual performance they've ever witnessed. And even Gilgeous-Alexander's cousin, Nikhil Walker-Alexander, was touting Jokic's MVP case. Boy, cuz.
He had an assist like 2 weeks ago, Jokic did, that was unlike anything I've ever seen before. Like
he plays the game differently than any player I think has ever played the game. It is a joy to watch.
Yeah.
And he is still the highly priced second choice for MVP at plus 850 at Bet365. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander minus 1,600 to win the MVP. I think we're seeing a Canadian hoist the MVP trophy this year. And, of course, OKC has been fantastic. Surrey Mitsubishi poll question results from Wednesday. Is Rick Tocchet a critical piece for the Canucks next season? Yes or no? People said?
People said no.
They said yes.
Did they?
60%. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Michael, unless he can still skate and score. Yeah, we saw a lot of that. Unless he can still play, not a critical piece. Hey, define as you see fit. Genghis John, it's way too early to give up on Rick Tocchet. As usual, Canucks fans want blood after a poor season with a fractured team. He should be allowed to work his way out of a rough patch just like everyone else. Donnie says they should go in a different direction. And Mick Canuck says, ask Quinn Hughes. It's all up to him. I saw a lot of that in the comments.
In responding to the one response there about he should be allowed to work his way out of a rough patch, I don't think anybody's suggesting that he should be not brought back because of performance.
Some are, but yes.
There'd be a small faction of that for sure. But I just think most people are of the mind of, okay, but if he's going to play hardball, if he's going to demand this, that, and the other, like eventually there's a price where that's just too much and that's ridiculous. And is it incumbent that they just meet any price that he says, or do you have some leverage if you're the Vancouver Canucks?
Errors and omissions. It's a big list.
Is it?
I was terrible yesterday. Through to a interview with Lawrence Gilman. It was actually the interview with Frank Corrado. I was slow on the uptake on Gilman's joke about Oliver Ekman-Larsson off the top. Thought he was there when Babcock signed his contract with the Leafs. He wasn't. This one is mostly Blake, although I didn't have the information firsthand. We were wondering about the Colorado Avalanche games this week. We knew they did the Canucks no favors, and that was right.
Mm-hmm.
Flames beat them in a shootout Monday. Blues beat them in regulation Saturday.
Yeah, I was
So
thinking of the Flames
both
game.
direct competitors got the full 2 points off Colorado this week. And then I asked you this after the show. Do people know who Vincent Price was? He died 32 years ago. Woe to you, O earth.
If you are an Iron Maiden song, you know.
Did you ever watch The Hilarious House of Frightenstein?
Frankenstein. The Hilarious House of Frankenstein, wasn't it?
It was Frightenstein, I believe.
I don't think so. I think it was Frankenstein.
I'm looking at it right now.
Really?
Yes. It was a Canadian show. Like vampires, Dracula, horror themed. Anyways, Vincent Price was a actor and known for his horror.
Yes.
Yes. Of course.
Narrative voice.
Does the big narrative voice in Thriller.
Thriller. Yeah.
Probably most famous for that.
Yeah. I don't think most people know it anymore, though. If you're under the age of 35.
Mike, do you know Vincent Price?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. All right.
But he's a music fan.
I was afraid that reference went for a lot of people. Anything to self-report, anything in the inbox.
From Tuesday, there was some podcasting issues from Apple's side of things, but that was across the Apple's thing. So not our fault. Nothing we could do.
Well,
but we apologize.
Yeah.
It might have appeared as an error from us.
Be better, Apple.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky. Live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local.